You hear about immigration all the time in the news, but what if we thought about it a little differently? What if we looked at it as one of the biggest investments a person can possibly make in their life? Let's think of it like a personal balance sheet, with all the assets on one side and all the liabilities on the other. Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to audit that balance sheet.
So, what really is the true price of starting your life all over again? I mean, that's the core question, isn't it? And it goes so far beyond just visa fees or the cost of a plane ticket. The real answer is this incredibly complex mix of hopes, dreams, sacrifices, and a whole lot of hidden costs that we're about to unpack together.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the promise, the dream. This is the assets column on our balance sheet. What are those powerful motivations that pull people clear across the world to start somewhere new?
Well, when you really look at why people decide to move, you see this consistent, almost universal set of reasons. It's the chance to escape conflict, right? To find better schools and healthcare for your kids, to grab on to a real economic opportunity, or to finally reunite with family. Ultimately, it all boils down to seeking a higher quality of life and just having more freedom. These are the huge draws.
So you see, the expected return on this massive life investment isn't always just about personal gain right here or right now. So often, it's generational. It's about securing a safer, more open society and a genuinely brighter future for your children, and maybe even for their children too.
But is that the whole story? I mean, if immigration were just a simple transaction where you trade hardship for opportunity, it would be a much easier decision for everyone. The reality, though, is just so much more complicated than that.
Which brings us to the other side of the balance sheet. Let's call this the liabilities column. These are the unseen costs, the things that often get completely lost in that optimistic story we just talked about.
You know, one of the most common and frankly frustrating hidden costs is something called skill downgrading. Just imagine this for a second. You're a respected engineer, a doctor, maybe a professor in your home country. Then you move, only to find out that none of your credentials, none of your hard-earned experience are recognized. So many highly qualified immigrants are forced to take jobs that are way below their skill level. And that's not just a financial hit, it's a huge blow to your professional identity. And the toll isn't just about your career, it's deeply emotional. There's some data from Canada's longitudinal survey of immigrants that's really telling here. It found that 29%, that's nearly 1 in every 3 recent immigrants, reported having emotional problems in their first few years. Now, this isn't just about feeling a little homesick. We're talking about a significant, measurable level of stress and psychological strain.
And you gotta remember, this experience is not the same for everyone. Think about somebody who immigrates later in life, maybe in their 40s or 50s. For them, the liabilities can be absolutely enormous. They're leaving behind careers they've built for decades, social networks, friends, everything. The cost of losing all of that is just immense.
This brings us to a factor that can completely change everything on the balance sheet. It's not so much where you go, but why you go. It's the critical difference between making a choice and being under pressure.
The source material we looked at calls this pressured migration. This is when the decision to move isn't a completely free and voluntary one. Instead, it's being driven by these external forces, like really restrictive policies that dictate your every move, or maybe urgent family needs that basically leave you with no other real option.
And the human cost of that kind of pressure is just huge. The source material captures this feeling so powerfully, describing it as a constant cycle of disruption that leaves people feeling like they, quote, do not live for themselves.
A perfect example of this is something that's been called the residency trap. Picture older parents who are just trying to stay near their kids in a country like the US or Canada. To meet the rules, they have to move there for 6 months at a time, leaving their jobs, their friends, their entire life behind, only to have to return home and then start the whole disruptive, expensive, and emotionally draining cycle all over again.
And here's the crazy paradox in all of this. The very policies that are designed to help keep families together can actually end up undermining the entire purpose of migration in the first place. When the process itself creates constant instability, drains your finances, and causes all this stress, it completely transforms a potential asset into a massive liability.
So where does all of this leave us? Well, it brings us right back to the beginning, to the final calculation, to that very personal and unique balance sheet that everyone has to weigh for themselves. So, what are the big takeaways here? First, and most importantly, this balance sheet is deeply personal. What's an asset for one person could be a liability for another.
Second, those hidden costs we talked about, the skill downgrading, the emotional stress, they are very real. But maybe the most critical point is this: the conditions of the move can change absolutely everything. A voluntary, well-planned move is a world away from one that's made under pressure. It means a realistic, honest audit of your expectations and your resources is just essential.
And that leaves us with one final vital question. And it's not just for individuals to think about, but for policymakers too. How can we design immigration systems that actually support the dream? How do we ensure that the pursuit of a better life doesn't end up costing people their health, their identity, and their well-being in the process?